Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We're going to start our afternoon service with number 112, Grace Alone. Grace Alone. And we'll stand together. We'll be sitting a lot. So. Just real quickly here, I have one announcement, and that is that choir will actually be taking the afternoon off. And so we've worked hard the last couple of months, and so we'll take this Sunday off of practice, and then we will hit Christmas music really hard November, December. So, and practices next month will start at 5 p.m. So again, no practice this week, 5 p.m. the following.
Very good. You may be seated. Thank you for that. I've already introduced Chris, but if somebody could actually grab his attention, Anthony, maybe out in the lobby. I'll talk to you until he comes back in here. But the main announcement, and I'm not going to reiterate all of them, is that next week we are back to our evening services. So choir at 5 o'clock, as you just heard, service at 6 o'clock. The other thing that's going to be very important this week is that Tuesday from 2 to 5, specifically in advance of Wednesday, and come on Wednesday as well. But we will need as many hands as possible on deck for that workers meeting for the Candy Carnival outreach on Wednesday. Did you have a question?
The stuff that we're supposed to bring, the Facebook, does that come on Tuesday?
It won't need to be here until Wednesday.
You just need to bring it for Wednesday?
Yes. It needs to be here in advance of Wednesday, so I guess I'll say
We
this.
have Tuesday to work, and we can.
Yeah, you could bring it on Tuesday as long as, if you know that you're not going to be able to be here for Wednesday, but you'll be here for Tuesday. As long as we have it on Wednesday, we should be all good. I hope that answers your question. But yes, as many hands as possible on deck for that Tuesday from 2 to 5. If you say, I don't know what this is, I don't know how I can help, show up. We will have a job for you, so please plan on that. Other than that, Chris is going to come and present his ministry now, and I believe that the slides are all queued, so yeah, you should be all good to go.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? Okay, good. Are we still friends? Hopefully I didn't rattle you too much earlier. We're still friends?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, awesome. Good. So we'll just have a brief chat and conversation about what's going on at the ministry. Yeah, you guys will be able to see it. And again, we'll see how good my glasses are working again. And we'll jump right into it. So, Carriagetown has been around for 75 years now. I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but we started in 1950 on the banks of the Flint River. In 1987, we moved over to the historic Carriagetown neighborhood, and we took on that moniker. And right now, we're serving single men, single women, and children. So that's families, single women, and single men who happen to be homeless. That's our primary focus. But I like to tell people we are a ministry first. We are a community-based organization. We're an agency, so we're all those things. And so we're trying to teach our folks how to be professionals as they are conducting God's ministry as well. So we have about 50 staff members right now, between 50 and 57, and we are housing about 130 people every day over at the ministry. So our mission is to provide help, hope, and the good news through the skills and means of God's people and the transformative power of Christ's love. So that's the mission of Carriagetown Ministries, and we're trying to be diligent in upholding that. So Christ is the center of our work. In Matthew 25, talks about the least of these, and then Mark chapter 12. I like to focus on the specific section of the verse, and that's love your neighbor. And you guys may have heard about our Love Your Neighbor campaign, and that's where that is derived from in Mark chapter 12. All right, our Board of Trustees, you may know some of these folks out in the community. Is Judy Cox, she's our Board President. Ms. Sharon Faust is our Vice President. Mr. John Will is our Treasurer. Reverend Ernesto Alanese is our Interim Secretary. You'll see a lot of reverends up here too, so that's a good thing for us. And Reverend Dean Stewart is a trustee, and then Reverend Jerry Foster is a trustee. Reverend Bernard Drew is a trustee as well, and then Ms. Sonita Clemens is a trustee, and then Mr. Robert Meyer is a trustee emeritus for us over at the ministry. All right, so our financial report, we like to share and be transparent about where the money is going. So we receive a lot of individual donations at Carriagetown Ministry. So the funding sources are broken up like this. So individuals, organizations, in-kind donations, foundations, and then churches. And people are normally surprised when we tell them only 3% of our funding comes from churches, about 3%. So the larger share is organizations at about 33%, and then for individuals. So individuals kind of fund our agency more than any other at almost 50%. And so you all may see some of our mailers that come to your house. And so that's how we kind of get funded from individuals mostly. And then the funding disbursement, so that part's important too. So about 88% of our funding goes to programming, which is a large share. The other 5% goes to administration, and then 7% goes to fundraising. Again, so everything's going out basically to come back in. So we try to make sure that we are good fiduciaries and that we're responsible of what we've been given. Again, 75 years of service this year, so it was our diamond anniversary. We celebrated October 10th this year, and we celebrated that 75 years of service here in Flint and Genesee County. We did a gala. We normally do a fundraiser every year, but we had a gala and everyone dressed up, and we had a good time and kind of shared a little bit about what was happening with the ministry, a little bit of history. We had some old photos of back on Kersley Street when we were there at Kersley University. We had a good time, good night. I was told the food was decent. It was better than banquet food this time. So I think some folks were happy about that. All right, so again, our journey started in 1950. In 1987, we moved to the Carriagetown neighborhood, and I think the greatest point here is that we are a gospel rescue mission, which means that everything that we do is centered on Christ. That's actually the reason why the ministry was formed in the first place. So the point is to share the gospel. So we have chapel services every day over at the ministry. So that's once in the morning and once in the afternoon, and various church partners will come and they'll have chapel services for the men and women over at the ministry. We think that's key in helping folks resolve their current crisis, because most of the folks that come to us, it's a heart condition. You know what I mean? When we are sinning and we find ourselves down or in dire straits in a natural way, it usually has started with some type of sin issue or heart issue. All right, so 75 years looks like hope, help, sharing the good news, of course, community service engagement, personal and professional development. We're helping folks become restored, hopefully helping them find healing in their relationships. You guys know we feed the hungry and we provide emergency housing. All right. Has anyone here been over to Blue Vine Donuts? Okay, all right, so you guys, that's why my jacket's so big right now. I'm trying to do better. The donuts are very good. When I first started at Carriage Town Ministries, the staff would say, hey, we have the best donuts in the city. And I was like, you kind of have to say that, you work here, right? And then I had a donut, or two, or three, and so on, and then, again, great donuts. But if you guys would like to come by, you can have coffee, donuts. There's some meeting space in the back. We also use the bakery for transitional employment, so that means men or women who are in our programs, they can actually work at the bakery and they'll get paid to do that. So we use the bakery, the kitchen. We have used donations at some point too, to help those folks get some real world experience, help them bolster their resume a little bit, and then kind of fill in any gaps that they might have. And last year we actually sold 39,000 donuts and coffees over at the bakery, so that was awesome. We did our Liberty House conversion. So there's a house on the corner of 4th and Garland. It was a single family home. Last year we converted it into 2 apartments. And we did this because sometimes we have larger families come to the ministry and they, the composition of the family, we may not be able to fit them in our rooms. So instead of tying up 2 or 3 rooms for one family, now the whole family can kind of stay together at these apartments. And then we have more rooms for either smaller families or for single women. And right now, the house is currently occupied, so it is in use. All right, again, love your neighbor. I don't know if you all have seen any of your photos in here. You might, so if you see some familiar faces in the photos. So for Love Your Neighbor, that's usually every February. We have folks, they will either come to the kitchen and actually cook the meal at the kitchen, or they will drop off the meal, or they might give us a donation for the meal, or they might just come by and serve. So if you guys wanted to do that as a way to volunteer, you can come by and serve. You don't have to wait until February. You can come by at any time and do that. This one, so with Dillon Elementary in the Carmen Ainsworth district, this would be coming up in 2026, would be the 3rd year. It's probably the most fun I've had going outside of being in North Baptist. Close second, okay? So the children who are somewhat underserved themselves, they have shown us what giving really looks like. Even if you don't have an abundance, they kind of give out of what they have. And the kids broke their record and collected almost 1,300 boxes of cereal for us over at the ministry. And so we're out of that already, of course. But it's just awesome to see all the kids get really excited. They have an ambassador, usually a 3rd grader, and they'll rally all the kids. The teachers do a little rebel rousing, and they compete who's gonna, bring in the most cereal. The kids who win get a donut party. We give donuts to everyone, but the kids the classes who collect the most boxes of cereal get a party. And so the teachers make it a competition. I heard they're already prepared, and some people are waiting to the last minute to say how many, sandbagging, that's the word I was looking for. Some teachers are sandbagging and say, hey, you know what, we're gonna bring our 50 boxes in at the last minute because we wanna win. But it's good fun, going to a good cause. So Mayflowers Bloom the Taste of Carriage Town. Normally what we do is prepare some sack lunches, so to speak. We'll put some donuts in, kind of create a special meal. It's a way for folks to come and donate. So that money is like a fundraiser for us as well. As you can see in some of the pictures, some folks will stay and have lunch, but most take it back to their churches and use it as an opportunity to fellowship with folks at their church. Hey, I'm in this picture, which I hate being in pictures, but I'm in that one. We tried a new event this year, which was Feed Our First Responders. So that was for EMS workers, firemen, policemen, just to kind of say thank you for the work that they do. Often it goes unthanked, but then also we want to create good relationships and partners in the community. So some of our staff members came up with this idea, and we took the food over to the fire stations, police stations. Some of the officers came by the ministry to pick up food, but that wasn't necessarily a fundraising event. That's one of our community engagement events, which we happen to All right, August is back to the books, and so it is exactly what it says. So we will collect pencils, pens, notebooks, book bags, and make it available for folks in the community, not just our residents, to make sure the kids are prepped for the school year. So some folks who may not be able to get those items for their kids, and we want to make sure that the young ones are ready to learn and gearing to go. And so that's an event we put on every August. Kind of a play on Back to the Bricks, which is why it's back to the books, you know. There's usually no cars here, but you know, that's where we got it from. All right. And then winter warm-up, which is coming November 1st. So we're going to collect coats, hats. Some of you have already donated some, which we really appreciate. Thank you so much for that. Gloves, hand warmers, foot warmers, socks, blankets, sleeping bags. I don't know about you guys, but it seemed, at least this year and maybe the last few years, that there's not the gradual transition in weather. It's abrupt. So we had 80 degrees a couple weeks ago, and then the next day it was 40 degrees outside. So it's going to be important for us to try to collect these items for folks that may be participating in our programs, but this is also a community engagement event. So anyone in the community who needs some warm clothing or a coat, they can come by as well and pick up these items for themselves and their children. Look at that cutie right there. So adoptive families for Christmas. Usually there's an opportunity for two things. So there's a registry for people who want gifts, and then there's a registry for people who are supporting folks who may not have the money to give their families gifts. And so normally for adoptive families, it's just to make sure that folks can have a good Christmas for the kids. Some for our residents, but again, this is a community engagement event as well. It's not just for our residents at Carriage Town Ministry, but this goes out to the entire community. Anyone can sign up for it. Our adopt-a-room is kind of unique. So over at the Family Center, we will have different organizations adopt a room in the sense that they will either give us a donation specifically for decorations, or they will buy and decorate the room. Most folks like to come and decorate the room, which is really good because we want the rooms to be homely. Most of the folks, and I take this as a compliment, when they come by Carriage Town Ministries and they come into the building, they'll say, hey, this doesn't look like a homeless shelter. And so we do try to do a really good job with our staff and with our community partners just to make sure that the rooms look really nice, they look homely. Right now, one room that I would love to decorate, this one is for the men. It's kind of different. We normally do it for the ladies, but there's a 12-bed dormitory that we have. Right now, the beds are in it, but we need it to be decorated. I want it to be nice for the men. So if any of the ladies would love to do that, at least for me personally, I can decorate a room, and men decorate rooms nicely sometimes, but there's something about having a woman's touch in a home. And I love that. So ladies, if you would like to do something like that, you can definitely reach out to us to help decorate the rooms. I think if I was not married, my house would be really sterile, but because I'm married, you know, you can tell, hey, a woman lives here, things like, we have nice things. We might not have nice things if it was me. We'd have one pot and, you know, a box of cereal, but I thank God for my wife. All right. And so some programming that we have, we are continuing our community partnerships. We partner with the Department of Natural Resources, Parks and Recreation Division for our transitional employment. We just ended year 2 of that program. Last year was our pilot year. And the Department of Natural Resources reached out and said, hey, how can we help? So they came to one of our continuum of care meetings, and they said they wanted to help the homeless. They were seeing a lot of unhoused in the parks, and they wanted to know what they could do to help. I raised my hand and said, hey, we'd be willing to talk about it. And so we were able to kind of form this program out of nowhere, and we kind of paired it with our transitional employment program with mentoring. They hire 3 residents at the same pay as the men and women that Genesee County Parks pay. So it's Carriage Town Ministries, Department of Natural Resources, and Genesee County Parks. And we are in the park rangers, and we all partner together, maybe about 10 of us, to come up with this program. And so those men and women this year were able to be employed at the same pay rate as the folks at Genesee County Parks, which is awesome. So they are helping beautify the park system. So that's some weed whipping, weed whacking, edging, some cleaning, and that's seasonal employment, so it's June through September. And then we partnered with Catholic Charities last year for the Warming Center for Transitional Employment, where we hired, 5 of our residents had the opportunity to be hired with them and work in the Warming Center. All right, so here's some quantified results. So what are we doing? How is the ministry doing? So we serve an average of 454 meals every day. If you guys are connected to our social media, you might have seen the PB&J Brigade on Wednesdays, where folks come or be a part of it. I think some of you here are a part of it, where folks come and they make the sandwiches for us. We usually run out of that, whatever's made on Wednesday before the week is out. And sometimes it's mostly ladies that help make the PB&Js. About 400 or so. We usually run out of those before the week is out that they make on that day. And we serve about 167,000 meals every year at Carriagetown Ministry. So that's passersby, folks that maybe are just hungry. They're not a part of our program. They're just in the neighborhood. They can come by, grab PB&Js, but then they can also have dinner with us as well. So anyone who is in need can have dinner at Carriagetown Ministries. And then we serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner for our residents as well. Again, you'll see the 524 chapel services that we have. We think infusing Christ into our programs is extremely important, and it's going to help our folks afterwards. So one of the ways the chapel services does help as well is that, so say you guys came over and you had chapel services, it's a way for our residents to then find a home church before they leave, so they still have that partnership and connection from a spiritual perspective. We did 701 visits for our learning center, and then we saw 163 patients at our health clinic, which is on campus as well, last year. All right, so utilization, this one's an interesting point. So 2024 is in blue, and 2023 is in orange, and you'll see that there perceives to be a droppage, and the next slide will explain that a little bit. But we served 631 unique individuals in 2024, and then in 2023 we served 1,130 individuals. So this next slide will explain that a little bit. And so you'll see what we call a night stay with us is a bed night. So that year we had 32,911 bed nights in 2023, which had the higher unique individuals, and then 2024 had the lower unique individuals, but we're keeping people longer. So we actually did more bed nights in 2024 than we did in 2023, a little bit over 40,000. So I like to share these data points because it's a measure of actually how we're doing. So we have a few government grants, one with the state of Michigan, it's called the ESP program, and they measure length of stay. That means how long is a family or an individual staying at the ministry before they get housing. The positive destination rate, that measures housing only. We consider other things positive. So say someone is going to treatment, maybe they found a church home, maybe they had employment. Those things are all positive, but for this grant, the only measure of a positive destination rate is if they found permanent housing. So their own apartment, staying with family permanently, staying with friends permanently. And so those measures you'll see there. Recidivism is just measuring how many people are leaving Carriagetown Ministries and coming back to us. It is not a statewide measure. The other two are. So for length of stay, the first quarter of this grant cycle, our shelter was 83 days, so a little bit over 2 months. The statewide average was just about 2 months, so almost 3 for us. And then our positive destination rate was 25%, and then the statewide average was 30%. So good, but could be better. Next quarter, you'll see some increases here, but you'll also see some things that correlate a bit. So the statewide average remains around 61, 62. Ours went up to 124. Now that's just for this time period. So between January for this one and March, we had our length of stay, and this is of the people for this time period, and just based on the people leaving during that time period. So 124 days was their average length of stay, and then the positive destination rate was almost 30%. Again, higher than the statewide average, which is what we use as our baseline. So it's good, really good actually, even though it's only 30% anytime we're above the statewide average. So that statewide average is based on all of the ministries like ours, not just ministries, it could be just normal organizations that house the homeless and the number of people that went to a positive housing destination. So we're above that rate, which is really good. You can see our recidivism was up about 1.5%, so that means we had a few people come back that were with us before. And the statewide average is actually 18%. All right, and this last quarter that we have data on, this third quarter, we should receive the fourth quarter data pretty soon. Our length of stay again is 143 days. Our statewide average again is around 2 months. So if you think that's three, almost 4 months that people are staying with us, so that means that the bed capacity here in the community is limited, specifically for us. I think Shelter of Flint, the YWCA, our Brother's Keeper, I don't know their numbers, but we've all kind of been at or near capacity throughout the year. Usually that changes over the summer months. Usually in the summer, because it's warmer, you'll see the utilization drop a bit, but we have not seen that over maybe the past 3 years, that our shelters are actually staying full over the summer as well. So it kind of speaks to our need for increased bed capacity in the community. But again, our positive destination rate was actually 30% for this quarter, which was the third quarter. The statewide average was 26%. We're above that, which is great. It shows, so we have narrative data, then we have quantifiable data, right? The quantifiable data is showing that our teams are doing much better. We made some investments in case management, just making sure that the case management ratio, so 1 person to 20 people, you kind of don't want to go any higher than that from a case management perspective. But that is helping and it's working, and our numbers show that as well. And this data here is just some national data from the National Alliance to End Homelessness. And let's see. All right, so that's better. My glasses aren't working that well. So the homeless rate has actually gone up. 771,480 people were homeless as measured in this year's point in time count. So usually one day in January, the whole country gets together and we actually count the number of homeless in our community. So that number has gone up significantly over the last year. So the light blue portion, which is difficult to see, that number has risen over 2023, and that's for unsheltered homelessness. And I think that has gone up 274,000 from 256,000, so there's an increase there. And then from about 396,000 to 497,000 for sheltered homelessness. So again, nationally, this speaks to bed capacity. So on your right-hand side, that second graphic shows that for families, it's for 109%. So for 109% of the people homeless and needing emergency housing, in 2019, we had about 109% capacity. So we were over capacity. We had enough beds, more than enough beds for homeless families. But in 2024, that number went down to 95%. So the gap there is 5%. And then that 5% is different when you look at varying communities. I think we all know that here in Flint and Genesee County, we need more family beds for emergency housing. And then the graphic on your left is for individuals. In 2019, there was a 49% gap in the number of beds needed, and it's the same now, in 2024. So again, that speaks to bed capacity issues in our communities and others. All right, so just based on some of the data from the last graphic here, so there's an additional 771,480 people that experience homelessness in this recent point in time count. That's an 18% increase over 2023, and so that's an additional 118,376 people who did not have a home in 2024 versus 2023. So an overwhelming majority of our continuums of care. So in every community, there's a continuum of care. So that is folks like Carriage Town Ministries, GHS might be a part of it, and other agencies, and we're all coming together. It could be law enforcement to help deal with the homeless problem in our areas. And so 82% of those COCs saw an increase in homelessness. And then first-time homelessness is on the rise, up about 23% since 2019. Again, that data is from the National Alliance to End Homelessness. So for us, strategic vision, create new programs and partnerships around the skilled trades, so that's helping guys and gals obtain a livable wage, so teaching them new skills, and then continue to address bed capacity, create affordable housing solutions, and this is as a community, of course. Right now, for us as an agency, I think bed capacity is going to be the biggest thing that we can focus on right now to relate to the homeless issue. All right, so our provision of services, we provide some interim housing, about 60 single women and families at the Family Center. The men's ministry has about 60 as well. And then we have about 28 our alternative housing units. So we own about 4 houses in the Carriagetown neighborhood that we use for some of the men and women that maybe have gained employment. So we kind of use it as like a step up, so to speak. What we want to do too, we have developed some of these things already, but we want to continue to develop day programming so people have something to do during the day. So we want to get some therapeutic recreation. We know that helps with depression and bouts of anxiety, nutrition classes, art therapy. We don't have chapel services. We have grief counseling. We've partnered with First Presbytery and the Gerhold Center to provide grief counseling. We want to do some group therapy, talk therapy. On-site mental health services would be great because a good percentage of our population is suffering from some type of mental health challenge. And it's arguable that if you're homeless, you're at least depressed because it can be depressing. So, but that's not necessarily a clinical diagnosis. That would be like temporary or situational depression. And then we've centralized our intake department so folks can come to the ministry and look for housing. We have a waiting list that is extremely large right now. We have, if we were to deduplicate all the people on our waiting list, I think our intake department was saying that there's about 500 people waiting for housing, just with us. We don't have that many beds, so there's always going to be a lot of people on our waiting list, unfortunately. We have an on-site medical clinic, which you guys are aware of, and our donation center as well. And believe it or not, I don't know if people know this, but we are partnered with AARP to run the donation center, so they consider us a site. AARP will pay the individuals, usually seniors, and then they'll come and work with us. And so we have partnered with them for several years now, and we continue to do that as well. Additionally, we want to strengthen and create community partnerships, which some of us have discussed a little bit today. Create some programmatic improvements, increase engagement, that's both community engagement and engagement with our residents as well. And then we want to work on continuous program evaluation, which is determining what we do well, what can we be better at. That way, we are making sure the environment is appropriate for not only our residents, but for us too as we grow and develop as an agency. So you might be wondering, well, you heard all of that information, which was a lot. How can you help? How can you get involved? Of course, you can volunteer. I don't know, Mr. Jim's in the room. He volunteered with us for almost 14 years. You can volunteer your time or your talent. And so often people think about, well, what can I do? I'm not a good mechanic. I used to be a teacher. Well, maybe you can help us develop a class. I used to be a nurse. Well, maybe you can come work at the medical clinic. Or maybe you have hobbies. Maybe you're a mechanic or something like that. Well, maybe you can help us develop a class around teaching the guys and gals how to become mechanics, recovery groups, life skills. So I would say to anyone wondering how they can help, money always helps because it costs a lot to run a ministry like ours. But we could also use your time and your talent. Those are valuable to us as well, and they should be valuable to you. So whatever you're talented in, it could be knitting, we could use blankets. I'm just, sharing different things. So whatever it is that you do, I would say don't discount it. More than likely, in some way, it can help us over at the ministry. All right, so you can always donate at carriagetown.org, of course. Gently used clothing over at the donation center. Sometimes we will take furniture, it just depends. Sometimes we'll have men and women moving out. We don't tend to keep the furniture there, but if there was a situation where you had some furniture, someone was moving out, we would more than likely try to make that transition rather than storing the furniture on site. And that is it. Hopefully I have not bored you all too much. I think we wanted to do some questions then. So if anyone had any questions or comments, things you want to know about, now's an opportunity to ask, or if you had a question about any of the slides that we just went through. Yes, ma'am.
How many of your clients do you employ around, like at the donut shop
Mhm.
and other areas around? How many can you employ?
Right now, it's 5. The highest that we have employed since I've been the executive director is 12. But it's costly, so we have to kind of, you know what I mean? Because we're paying a wage.
Train them and-
Yes, you gotta train them, and then you have to, you're actually giving them a paycheck as well. So 5 is kind of the sweet spot of where we wanna be. It doesn't, it can be a budget buster, if we are paying too many people. So that would be on top of the 50 to 57 people that we employ regularly, plus the additional 5 or 12. Right now, we're keeping it at 5. So right now, it's the bakery. We have an individual there. We have 2 individuals working in laundry, and we have 1 individual, well, actually 2 for the bakery, because 1 person helps the baker overnight. And then I believe we have 1 at the donation center as well. So currently, we're employing 5 of our residents currently. Yes, sir. Duncan?
Are you guys looking to buy more buildings, build more rooms? Kind of what's your vision moving forward with the large wait list?
That's a very good question. I will say yes. I believe right now the focus is bed capacity, but we want to. So what is it that we can do as an organization, right? What does God want us to do? What area does He want us to move us in? Those are always the questions. We're always praying about that, but also we want to be practical too, because it costs to do all those things. So right now, the biggest thing I think we can do without adding any walls or building any new buildings is increase our bed capacity, which we kind of worked on a bit. So we got a grant from GHS to increase our bed capacity, but we want to do it responsibly. So that means that we had to look at the cost that we would incur to take on an additional, in this case, would be 33 people. So the food costs for 33 people would go up to $133,000 for those 3 people. We would need 2 additional frontline staff members and 2 additional case managers. So that means to put those 33 beds online responsibly, it will cost us $250,000 every year to do that. So we're trying to do it responsibly. So right now, that's my primary focus right now, is to do that and to try to do it responsibly. We do have a grant writer, so we're looking at different grants and things like that we can use to supplement bringing those beds online, especially with the community need being so high. We want to make sure that we're meeting that need initially. Sometimes we have opportunities to obtain properties. We want to try to stay in that Carriagetown neighborhood, partially because of access. It's easy to get around, and our staff can get around to all the buildings and make sure things are safe. So last year we were able to purchase a vacant lot on Lime Place, which is just off University and Garland, block behind. And so we have that vacant lot there, and then there may be some opportunities for us to get a house or 2 in the neighborhood. It just depends on how things play out. And so we would want to do things like that. And then the other thought is, what could we do on the existing footprint of the property? Because we have a lot of property in the Carriagetown neighborhood. Our main building and family center have a lot of green property from a city perspective. You know what I mean? It's not acres, but there's more land there that we can possibly build on. Any other questions? Nope.
Now, what sparked your interest specifically in these kinds of ministries?
The other Dan Sims and I were talking about this at lunch. God, really, to be honest. I thought I was going to go into probation. In hindsight, and I would tell my wife this all the time, in hindsight, that was what I wanted to do, and it wasn't necessarily what God wanted me to do. But I needed to go through that because I needed to understand who I was and who I wasn't. And so when I got the job as a probation officer, I knew immediately that wasn't the job for me. I knew it right away, and I think I came home and I told my wife, and I wasn't going to quit, but I knew it wasn't the job for me. So eventually we mutually separated. I actually still talk to the folks sometimes, but nonetheless, I got involved in this specific ministry work through my brother, who was working at Detroit Rescue Mission at the time. He said, "Hey Chris, I know you're trying to go into probation. We need a shelter case manager. You should apply for it because there are some counseling components there that will cross over." I said, "You know what, that's a good idea." So I did. I applied for the job. I did get the job as a shelter case manager, and we had 75 beds at the time at this specific location that I was working at. And then I went into probation. So I actually left ministry work to go into law enforcement. Then I ended up back at the ministry. But it was really ironic. I kind of knew I was in the right place when I first got there, even though that wasn't the job I was going to school for. I kind of knew I was in the right place. But in some ways, I could probably say I let pride, steer me back in the other direction, because I was like, well, I went to school for 4 years for this. I should see it out. And it was a good place for me to be in for the reasons I stated before. I just got an opportunity to understand who I was and where God wanted me to be. But one thing that I think has drawn me to ministry is just, to be honest, it's been my grandparents. So initially, my grandparents, I would say, were the ones that introduced me to Christ. Those were my grandparents. They would take us to church. It was First Baptist Institutional Church, by the way. So I grew up in the Baptist church. And we would go to church with my grandparents, and they would always talk to us about God, about being excellent for God. And my grandparents would always do that. So we initially, I think, as a kid, as I'm thinking back, my grandparents were the one that kind of sparked my relationship with God, but also for ministry as well. Because after a while, we were in church and they said, okay, you've been here for a while now you have to get up and do something. So it was young adult usher board, young adult choir, we had to do something. So it was always serving. My grandparents had a heart of service. So that's kind of, I think, what got me into it. And I think it spilled over, into adulthood. And really, I can't say necessarily that it's anything that I've done, but I think that God has just given me a servant's heart, to be honest, because I don't think I've done anything special, you know what I mean, to say, hey, I'm here because I chose to be. I think it's more than God put it in my heart to do it. And everything that I've chosen usually doesn't work out too well. So I kind of leave that to God, It usually works out good. Mr. Sims, did you want to ask?
Yeah, are there any pathways that seem to have more success than others to get the homeless to transition to being self-sufficient? And is there anything that you could identify to increase that?
That's a really good question. And I'll say yes, but it depends on the individual circumstances. So consider homelessness like a pot of stew, and everybody's pot of stew is different. So some might have carrots in it, some might have celery, some might have meat, some might just be a broth. So it depends. This person might just have, maybe they have a co-occurring disorder, maybe they're unemployed, and they have childhood trauma, and this person may have just lost their job. This person might just be underemployed, so it's different for every person. So the people who come with multifaceted issues it's a little more challenging to deal with their circumstances, but usually the best one, to be direct with your question, is the same way you and I stay out of trouble. Get a job, save your money, get a place to stay, you know what I mean? Make yourself a productive citizen, find a good church home. Those are the things that tend to get people out of homelessness faster than waiting on any community level support. A while ago, it was 6 months to a year. There is what we call a homeless choice voucher, which is basically Section 8 for people who are homeless. But this is years ago, it was 6 months to a year. I'm sure it's longer now. But even if those folks were to get what we would say pulled for that type of voucher, you still have to have some type of income. So you're still going to need employment. You know what I mean? So I think right now that's the best way. It might not, and it's the fastest way based on homeless services. Is to get a job, save your money. Right now, I think for our residents, it's a good place to be in the sense that they get to start over. It's not a place where people want to be, but they have the opportunity to save money. They don't have to pay for food. They don't have to pay for lights and gas, no bills, you know what I mean? And you can, if you are employed, then 3 or 4 months, if you're doing it responsibly, you could save enough money to move out on your own. You would hope that would be what would happen, but sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes folks aren't motivated, so you have to motivate them. Sometimes you have to work through some of those issues they have. I know a lot of you have been to college and have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So if those folks are focused on survival, that's all they can focus on. So if they come to us, you don't have to worry about where you're living. It's safe. You have a place to stay. There's programming. There's case management. their spiritual life. And so now I can start thinking about, okay, can I get to the doctor? You know what I mean? And deal with my mental health. Can I get to the doctor and deal with my physical condition? And then I can start really thinking about, looking for work. So it's often a jumble of struggles and trials that we're dealing with each individual, but all of it is wholly dependent on their ability to engage with us. So we know we can help, but if they don't engage, there's not going to be much that we can do. If that answers the question. No.
It does.
Okay. Yes.
This is my last question. Oh, Betty, were you gonna?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Do you ever have to end a residency for
Absolutely.
someone?
Absolutely. Usually that is, it happens a few different ways, but mostly threats of violence or violence. That's usually the reason most people would be exited from the program. And then sometimes you will have people in the program and they'll disappear for a week. And we'll say, hey, well, where did you go? Well, I was at Frank's house, or I was at my family's house, or I was somewhere. So to us, that signals, and sometimes you have to read between the lines, you actually have a place to stay. And so we will have that person, we may remove that person from services if we know they have a safe place to stay. And they're maybe with us, because some folks, this is not all, and this is not the majority, but some folks are just trying to work the system. You know what I mean? So if you have a place to stay, and we have 500 people on our waiting list, then you should probably go to the place where you can be safe and comfortable and let someone who really needs that help come in and use the space. So yes, it does happen, unfortunately. Anthony?
Just to follow up on her, do you have to ever remove it? No, I'm just kidding. That's still my question.
It happens sometimes, unfortunately. So if you think about it like this, not everybody who's coming to us is a saved individual. They're not a believer. Most people are not. These are regular folks coming from crisis situations. So they're coming to us in crisis. So that could mean, not all the time, but it could mean a substance abuse issue. It could mean a mental health issue. It could mean an anger management issue. It could mean an issue with maintaining relationships. It could be one or all of those together sometimes. So sometimes it happens where someone is just not fit for our environment because it is a structured environment. We want it to be safe. We do have women and children on our campus, so we pride ourselves in making sure that the campus is a safe place for people and they can focus on what it is they're doing while they're here, and not if I have to look over my shoulder because someone's gonna try to hurt me, so to speak, while I'm here, getting services and programs. So it happens sometimes. So this version of Chris that you see, some of our residents might not know this version of Chris, you know what I mean? Which hints our lesson. So even if I am meeting some type of disciplinary thing and it's a righteous anger, I try my best to be respectful to people, no matter if they've done something wrong or not. Just be respectful in that, like, hey, but be straightforward and say, hey, we can't have that, we can't do this here, but I'm not going to belittle them or beat them up, so to speak, or talk recklessly to them or anything like that. We're just going to say, hey, we can't have that here. But most of the time, people get a multitude of chances to your question, Ms. Betty and Mr. Anthony. They get a multitude of chances before something like that happens. And there's only a couple things that could be like an immediate dismissal. And again, it's going to have to be some serious or actual violence, serious threats or actual violence that's happening. Then that might cause a person to be exited from our programs immediately. All right, so I can do the challenge. All right, so it was challenging enough this morning, I believe. And so one of the things I was thinking about for the challenge is just to continue on what we were talking about with forgiveness. And so I just thought about it myself, and I meant to do this while I was up speaking today. So it's one thing to say, hey, I forgive these people. And then it's another to ask for forgiveness. And so I would say to my beautiful wife, if there's anything that I've done, sweetheart, would you please forgive me? And I know there's probably plenty. And I'll probably mess up tomorrow and I ask you to forgive me again. But would you forgive me for anything that I've done, anything I've said, anything that was that hurt you? More than likely it was unintentional, but I want you to know that You are a gem. You're a blessing to me. It's been an honor to be your husband for the last 25 years. And I could not do anything that I've done over the last 25 years. That's professionally, that's me being a good dad, attempting to be a good husband. But you've been such a support to me. You've been such an honorable person. You're a sweetheart. And I don't ever want to misuse or abuse you. So I'm asking you, would you forgive me, sweetie, for some of the things I've done and said. Thank you. I appreciate that. Tough to do. My wife is a sweetheart, and I know sometimes I can be really direct, and so it may not be intentional, but it may just come out cleanly. So I have like 15 filters in here, and sometimes the filters stop working, so filter A and B don't connect. And sometimes the way it comes out, it maybe isn't as caring and soft as it should be. One of my former pastors used to say, some of you men don't know what type of flower you have. And I was very, very young at the time. My wife and I was 20, she was 19 when we got married. And I was like, I get it. I get it. I get it. And I really didn't get it. But I get it. I definitely get it now. Some flowers need more water than others. Some flowers you have to handle more gently than others. Some need to be in the soil a little bit longer. Some need more sunlight. So in that way, just thinking of how my wife is a flower like any other, and I have to treat her appropriately. And sometimes, whether I'm trying to or not, whether my mind is on what's happening with work or what's just going on with Chris, just being intentional about how I'm caring for her. So in that sense, I think forgiveness is important for us because we have to continue to look at ourselves. We have to, as a church and as a body, we have to be constantly judging ourselves and not turning the mirror around and saying, well, I said that this way, speaking of my relationship with my wife because of what you said to me. You know what I mean? And going back and forth. So now we're in an argument. This is hypothetical, wink, wink. But now we're in now we're in this dispute, so to speak, right? So, but just saying, hey, look, I apologize for that. I shouldn't have talked to you that way or spoken to you that way or done this or that, but really turning it around on us, regardless if I receive what I think I should get from that person, whether it's an apology or even if it's wholly her fault or wholly my fault. You know what I mean? But apologizing for my participation, but doing it in a way where I'm being forgiving, therefore then showing patience, showing some love and kindness, but also showing some mercy as well. And what I found, communicating forgiveness, usually, and I'm using this as a real world example, it usually draws my wife and I closer together when we're communicating very, very well. It draws us closer, even if it's a tough subject, even if it's something that we don't want to talk about. It always draws us closer together. So today, as we spoke about forgiveness, I would say continue to search your heart. Look at Ephesians 4 again, but continue to look at it, what it is that you could be harboring. And one of the things that God was kind of reminding me of, I don't know if this was good or bad. I think it was good, but it doesn't feel good. I asked God to search my heart for anything that was not like him. So periodically, these old things will bubble up. One time something bubbled up from when I was 7, and I said, God, that's still in my heart? And I couldn't believe something that happened when I was a little boy. And it wasn't even really a big deal. It was the way someone had spoken to me, but I had harbored that offense. I'm 45 now. Can you imagine from 7 years old to 45? Harboring an offense and harboring an unforgiveness. And so God, in these different situations, he's been showing me what's there. And then when it comes up, I'll say, I forgive that person. God, forgive me for taking offense. And so this has happened periodically over time. Like I could be driving, I could be by myself at home, I could be reading the Bible, and some old thing will pop up that I didn't know was buried in the recesses of my heart. And so, forgiveness is really important. And then I think what I would say, outside of the scripture in Ephesians 4, but turning it around on us and not having any expectation of the people who have possibly offended us or hurt us. And it's a difficult thing to do, but it makes our relationship relationship with God that much better, and it makes our relationship with people that much stronger as well. So I would say forgive, forgive, forgive. 70 times 7. Forgive, forgive, forgive. And then allow God to instruct you on how that relationship looks. So here's maybe a silly example. If you walk down the street and your friend hits you upside the head every time you walk down the street, should we forgive him? Yeah. But maybe we don't walk down the street anymore. You know what I mean? So being practical about it too. I'm not saying be foolish about this and just be blind about what's happening in your relationships, especially if you're suffering some type of physical hurt or harm. But to really be practical about it and allow God to show you how to apply forgiveness in the real world, in a real world sense. All right. Thank you all. I appreciate you giving me some time and welcoming me here today. It's been great to visit with you, to speak with you, and to see how you guys are doing in North Baptist. I really appreciate the invitation, so thank you so much.
As I mentioned earlier, it has been a great month so far with this missions emphasis. I'm in some ways sad for it to come to a close, but we'll look forward to having 4 more individuals representing 4 more ministries do this again a year from now. So I'm praying towards that end that this would be an annual thing for us. And one of the things that we've done, I'm sorry, you just sat down, but Chris, I'm going to have you come back up here. In advance of this month, we have taken it upon ourselves as a church to do a fundraising for the different ministries and individuals coming through. And so out of both our missions budget as well as the donations from the folks that you see here, I have a $3,325 check here for Marriage here in our community, and we do believe in what you're doing. So thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course. If you would stand, we have a final closing song here, and then you're dismissed. There's no choir, no anything. Just be here on Tuesday at 2 o'clock.
I did want to share a portion of scripture before we sing our final song, and I won't turn it into a challenge or anything like that. But on the topic of James 1 specifically, throughout this month, throughout today, I was thinking of this verse. The Holy Spirit brought it to my mind. But be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. And so we've been challenged this month to take evangelism personally. We've been challenged even today to be intentional with forgiving others and not harboring bitterness. And so the challenge as we conclude this time together would be to do what we've both heard and been instructed to do. So we're going to conclude our month today with Send the Light. Number 364, Send the Light. Dismissed. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for today. We thank you for this very special month where we could honor those that are sharing the gospel. I pray that we would take that personally as well. And I pray that you would give us your grace to show your love to others. We pray for ourselves as well, that we would be doers of the word, that we would seek to forgive others, that we would open our hearts. Would you search me and renew a right spirit within me, Lord? And I pray that we would continue to love